A very good day to you and welcome to the program. We've called this program Know Your Calling. Okay? You know, folks, it's very important to operate in your strength, in your gifting, and not just to do things because you want to do that. I remember hearing many years ago where a man said that if you want to be an evangelist, you must be a man that leads people to Christ. If you want to be a prophet, you must bring a prophetic word. If you want to be a pastor, you must be a shepherd to the people. If you want to be a teacher, you must be able to teach the people. Correct? It's no good saying, I want to be a teacher, but no one can understand what you're saying. You're not a teacher. You can call yourself a teacher, but you're not one. If we go to Ephesians chapter 4, verse 11, and Paul says, and he himself gave some to be apostles, some prophets, some evangelists, some pastors and teachers for equipping the saints for the work of the ministry and for edifying of the body of Christ. So, because you want to be an evangelist, right, you might not be cut out to be an evangelist. Therefore, you have to go back to the Lord and ask Him to show you what you need to be. I'll give you a practical example. There was a man by the name of Demos Shakarian. He was an Armenian, an American Armenian. He came from Armenia. He was the biggest dairy farmer in the whole world. Okay? This is in the 1940s or 50s. He got gloriously saved. Okay? And he wrote a book called The Happiest People on Earth. If you can get that book, get it. It's very interesting. And he thought he was going to be an evangelist. So he went and bought a big tent because he had lots of money. He was a wealthy farmer. But he wasn't an evangelist because it just wasn't his calling. And he went back to God, and the Lord showed him that his gifting was organizing. So what he would do, he would get a Christian, maybe somebody like one of the astronauts that walked on the moon, Christian, and he'd get him to come and share his testimony. Or the world champion bull rider, or something like that. And you'd call businessmen together, and many men came to Christ. And they formed the Full Gospel Businessmen's Fellowship International, which was unbelievable. Tens of thousands of influential people came to Christ. So he wasn't an evangelist, but he was an organizer. Now I want to say to you today, maybe some of you have been preaching for years because you thought you were a preacher. But I want to be quite frank with you because I want to help you and I also want to help the people. If you're not getting through to the people, if there's no one coming to your meeting, go back and seek the Lord. Maybe He doesn't want you to be a preacher. Maybe He wants you to be a musician or an intercessor. Or maybe somebody that takes care of the poor and the needy. David Livingstone is the most well-known missionary on the continent of Africa. Do you know that it is recorded that he only led about one man to Christ in his whole ministry? And that was a chief in what used to be called Bechuanaland, which is now called Botswana. That's all. But do you know a more famous missionary? No. He stopped the slave trade. He was instrumental in that. Writing his letters back home. They called him the good man. If you go into Central Africa, he's the only white man's name left. Okay, I know because I come from Central Africa. A town called Livingstone at Victoria Falls. And the falls is still called Victoria Falls because he named it. And Blantyre in Malawi is the town that he was born in Scotland. They named it. So try and ask God to show you what your ministry is and do what you're good at. So if you have an ability to tell people about Jesus and they respond, then do it. If it doesn't work, change it. And God will give you your ministry. Goodbye.